anything?
Go.
Good to go? All right. Can any of you tell me what happened to our planet 2.5 billion years ago? So about 2.5 billion years ago, something crazy happened that kind of shaped the way our planet is today. It's really important. If it hadn't have happened, probably wouldn't be here. At least not in the same circumstances. Maybe a little more hairy, a little more ugly. And then this is a $20 bill. Many of you have seen it before. It's got a picture of George Washington on the front. And it could be your $20 bill. If you could tell me the name of the event that occurred 2.5 billion years ago, no phones, the only hint you get is that A, it occurred 2.5 billion years ago, as I've said 4 times already, and that it has 2 different variations of the same name, and it was caused by bacteria. Take guesses. $20, a case of beer. None? No idea? The Great Oxidation or Great Oxygenation event. Now this happened, thanks for letting me keep my 20 by the way. I had about $20 worth of faith none of you would get it. So the Great Oxidation event occurred because of bacteria like cyanobacteria, halobacteria, that began consuming CO2 at an alarming rate and pumping out oxygen as a waste product. That's stuff we depend on. Now as this happened, the waters, the ocean that we see today is very blue, at the time we're actually green. There's not a lot of oxygen, rust is more of a green color, right? But as oxygen started to make its way into the waters, the ocean actually turned blood red, really red, like Revelations, Bible stuff, crazy, right? But then as that oxygen left the oceans and went into the atmosphere, that oxygen began to displace the greenhouse gases such as methane and carbon dioxide. Now why is this important? Well, it's important because this bacteria caused the global ice age. So the entire planet was covered in ice. And this is bacteria we're talking about. It's a very primitive form of life. It took them a couple million years, but this is important because you will hear people say things like, well, you know, human beings have only been in an industrial age for 200 years. There's no way that we could shape or change our surroundings significantly, but bacteria did it. So if this primitive form of bacteria can do it, what would give you the impression that a highly advanced, technologically savvy species like humans couldn't do it, and probably do it better, right? We could probably do it a lot better. We're probably way better than bacteria, I guess. So as the planet heats up, we know that oxygen makes the planet cold. Carbon dioxide does the exact opposite. It gets really hot. Again, Bible shit. God's going to burn the earth. You all remember that from Bible school probably. As the earth warms up, we keep losing ice at an exponential rate. 12.8%, let's call it 13%. Why is this bad? Well, it's bad for a few different reasons. How many of you have seen the series Life or Planet Earth on Netflix, National Geographic, the History Channel? Right? Most of you have probably caught an episode or 2. If you have, you've probably seen episodes where you'll see species like salmon and turtles. They'll travel for literally hundreds, if not thousands, of miles to go to a specific destination to breed, to mate, for all that good stuff. And along the way, bears, dolphins, narwhals, those are whales with horns, all the other species follow them, and it's a big feeding frenzy, and it's a big cycle of life. So what do you think happens if the water gets too warm and these species start to die off? Or worse, they stop mating, so they stop producing because they depend on the temperature for a cue to know when to travel. This is bad, right? We already see what happens when there's too many of a particular type of bacteria, for example, with no natural predator to keep the numbers in check. You have bad things happen. Okay? So it's bad. To further talk about that, the oceans are going to rise. I don't know if I mentioned that or not, but as they rise, coastal cities will disappear. That means your favorite vacation spots, more like Atlantis, gone. Never see them again, unless you're, a good diver. You might have a chance. But I once heard a famous economist say that global warming isn't real because banks are still giving out loans for real estate along coastal properties. And that sounds like it has a lot of validity to it, right? These are these smart bankers, these smart economists, like they know what they're talking about. What? Are these the same people who caused the 2008 market crash? A lot of you are probably pretty young. You're probably, 10 10, 11 when that happened. I was about 16, 17 when it happened. I remember how bad things got, so forgive me if I don't take their word on it. Now, what does any of this have to do with the government bamboozling us, our elected officials, playing games with us? Before I can talk to you about how Congress and how politicians are using global warming as a gimmick, I have to tell you the statistics. I have to tell you the truth. So 29% of the United States emissions come from transportation. That's us driving vehicles, pretty straightforward. 22% industrial. That's your manufacturing facilities. That's your plants, your warehouses, all that stuff. 28% electricity. That's burning fossil fuels, power, said transportation, said residential, agriculture, industrial. 9% agriculture, cows, methane, atmosphere, greenhouse gas, bad. Residential, pretty straightforward, power, Xboxes, Twitters, Facebooks, Instagrams, PlayStations. Now, I want you to look at this graph. You don't have to pay attention to the numbers, they're irrelevant here. But pay attention to the graph and the line. You see how it starts in 1990, and it's there at about 63, we'll call it 63. It actually rises up until about 2008 when the Obama administration came in, and that's really when the United States started to take notice into climate change. And then ever since then, it's dropped considerably. Not really. Actually, it's about where we started. You could almost say we've made no progress. But how do we rank globally? Well, globally, we are number 2. For the first time, we're not number 1. It's very sad news, sad day for me. China actually beats us. We account for 15% of all global emissions on the planet. Pretty big number, but China consists of 28%. That's nearly a third. One country is responsible for nearly a third of all the CO2 emissions on the planet. And here's my problem. Let's say that I can get every single person in this room, however many of you are, I can get every single one of you to go out there with all the money you guys probably don't have and buy a brand new or state-of-the-art, newish electric car. Let's say I can convince you to install solar panels, which are very expensive, onto your homes, or wherever you live, your dorms. Let's say I can get every single person in the United States, all 330 million of you, to play ball, plus the undocumented immigrants that are here as well. Let's just pretend I can get every single body in this country to play ball. And it's what, 15%? We've made a dent, I guess. We've done a little bit. How do you get China to play ball? They have the second largest economy in the world. How do you convince a country with the second largest, most powerful economy in the world, slowly making its way to number 1, to give up their economic stronghold in pursuit or in favor of some global crisis that was first talked about by Al Gore, some crooked politician himself? Pretty hard. What about India? Are they going to play ball? They're still selling women over there. Unlikely. Russia. It's really cold in Russia. They're probably really excited for the warmth. Japan, a very likely ally. We didn't nuke them twice after all, Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And then we actually put the imperial family back in power and pardoned them from war crimes. So I would say that they owe us. Here's my point. Why we waste time making laws and regulations that ban straws or protecting turtles or banning aftermarket parts on vehicles in California, making you pay for grocery bags in Washington and Oregon and California, we're missing the bigger picture. Even if every single one of us modernized, which is impossible, by the way, even if every single person in the United States modernizes, that's still only 15%. And CO2 emissions are just going up. It's not like they're slowing down, they're just going up. So how do you get 7.5 billion to modernize? Can't. How many of you can afford an electric car? No? Solar panels? How many of you would be willing to cut your power off at about 8 p.m., 7 p.m. every night? Greater good? Probably not. No, we're selfish. It's cool. I am too. So Congress has been debating since, let's say, the late 1980s. Nearly 30 years, they've been talking about climate change, and we've made nothing happen so far. We've made minimal progress in states like California, Oregon, and Washington. And while the regulations in California are annoying, and I would argue that they are not in favor of protecting the planet, they're just there to help pay for the social programs that California's been creating, over the last 40 years. It's still sort of a step in the right direction. I mean, it's a good thing. We should take better care of our environment, but it's not really doing anything. So here are some of the laws we passed, and then here's some federal laws we talked about. But most progress has been made at the state level. The problem with that is, as soon as the next election cycle comes in, the Republicans or the Democrats can just overrule it, overturn it. Problematic. So I would say that our goal should be to evolve. And this, how many of you have seen Fight Club? You've never seen Fight Club? God, you should be ashamed. That is egregious. This is a great scene from Fight Club. It talks about why should we try to be perfect or not. I can't ask you to modernize, I can't ask the country to modernize, I can't ask the world to modernize. Our goal should be to evolve. Start using the technology that we have created to create a solution. Now, a proposed solution, a very expensive proposed solution, is pulling CO2 from the atmosphere, which most likely could be done. It's never done on a large scale, but it's worth a shot. The only problem is it's a little pricey. Now, many of you probably have part-time jobs and you don't notice the increment amount of taxes that come out of your bill or out of your check. You might. But as you get out of college and you get a job and start working full-time, you'll start to notice that federal and that state level, Social Security, all that stuff. You'll start noticing it coming out of your check. So who's going to pay for this? $1 trillion annually estimated. Who's going to pay for this? You think China's going to pay for it? Japan? Poland? Russia? United Kingdom? Most likely the United States will front the bill. So now, the United States is not only the global police, but now also the global fire department, as it turns out. Oh, I deleted a slide. That's great. My point here is, while we waste time letting these slandering, lying, crooked people who will do anything in their power to get back into power come next election cycle, while we let them dictate on what not to do, what to do, the world is slowly evaporating away. It's getting hotter and hotter. And in 30 years, 30, 40 years, you'll tell your kids, come November, come December, you'll tell them about the snows that you saw when you were their age. You'll tell them about the blizzards and the crazy stuff you saw on TV when there's not even a drop of snow to be had during the winter. You'll tell them. Because I get to tell my kid about it right now. I watch these winters dwindle. And I remember a time when there was snow literally up to here. I remember a time when you could jump off the front porch and be, let's say you're 7 or 8, you're nearly submerged in snow depending on your height. We don't get that anymore, it's gone. The planet is so hot, the temperatures are getting so high that we don't even get snow anymore. And in 30 years, you'll be doing the same thing with your kids. You'll have to explain to them that we couldn't do enough. We couldn't take the responsibility. We were too worried about the global economy. We were too worried about, driving that new Mustang, that we didn't take the time to really pressure our politicians to start making real progress. And then they'll tell their kids someday that they're sorry, that there's no planet left for them to live on. The next 100 years, this planet's going to be gone. Estimated. Probably not true. This could all just be gossip. It could all be fake. It could all be wrong. I don't know any more than any of you know. But I can tell you from my own personal experience. I remember a time when things were cold. I remember a time when the snow piled high and slowly going away. The decisions we make right now will determine the future, not only that our kids have, but our grandchildren. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Courtney?
What made you decide to pick this topic?
I think it's important. Okay, let me repeat the question. She asked me what made me pick this topic, for the record. I think that it's important